My name is Drew Holloway. I'm 68 years old. Last March, after 35 years of running luxury hotels for other people, I bought a beach house for myself. 4 bedrooms, ocean view, wraparound porch. The house my husband Frank and I had talked about for 40 years. That first night, I was still unpacking boxes when my son Kyle called. He was excited. His wife's family had heard about the house. They were coming that weekend, all of them. "Would you mind taking the back bedroom? Mom Brianna's mother has a bad back." I said, "Of course, honey." Then I hung up and stood in my empty kitchen with the ocean coming through the screen door. What happened over the next 6 weeks turned my retirement dream into the most satisfying business I've ever run. And I've run hotels with 300 rooms. Welcome back to Alpha Mom Stories, where mothers stand their ground and write their own endings. If this story hits home, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. Frank Holloway was an electrician. He could fix anything: loose outlets, blown fuses, that one ceiling fan in the dining room that made a clicking noise for 14 years until he finally replaced the bearing one Sunday morning in his bathrobe. We were married for 40 years. Every vacation we took, Frank would drive us to some coastal town and walk the streets like a mayor on inspection day. He'd wear his white captain's hat, the one he bought at a marina gift shop in Beaufort on our 15th anniversary, and he'd peer at beach houses through fences, studying the porches, counting the windows. "One day, Dee," he'd say, "we'll have our own." He died 3 years ago, lung cancer, 65 years old. The house we dreamed about was still just a folder of real estate listings in his desk drawer. I retired the same year, 65. I'd started at the Palmetto Grand Resort in Charleston as a front desk receptionist when I was 20. 35 years later, I was the general manager. 300 rooms, 2 restaurants, a ballroom that hosted governor's galas. I ran that hotel through hurricanes, a kitchen fire, a plumbing strike, and a groomsman who drove a golf cart into the pool. For 3 years after Frank died, I lived in our house in Mount Pleasant, and I didn't buy anything. Then one morning I woke up and I said enough. I drove to Folly Beach. I found a 4-bedroom beachfront cottage with a wraparound porch and a detached garage. $780,000, every penny I'd saved, and every dollar of Frank's life insurance. I signed the papers. I carried my boxes. And the first thing I did was set Frank's white captain's hat on the mantel in the living room. We made it, Frank. I should have known that "we" was about to get complicated. The call came at 7:42 p.m. I was hanging a photograph of Frank and me at the marina, the one where he's wearing the captain's hat and pointing at a sailboat we could never afford. "Mom." Kyle was smiling through the phone. I could hear Brianna in the background. "Bree's family heard about the house. They're dying to see it. Can we come down this weekend?" "All of us." "Of course, honey, all of you." He hesitated, just a beat. "Well, Brianna's mom and dad. Her sister Sierra and Sierra's husband Chase, so 8 total. Would you mind maybe taking the back bedroom? Brianna's mom has a bad back and the master has the best mattress." "Move to the guest room, Mom." In 35 years of hotel management, I'd checked in over 100,000 guests. I knew the difference between a polite request and a reservation that's already been made. This was a reservation, confirmed, non-refundable. "Of course, honey." I hung up. I looked at the captain's hat on the mantel. Frank would have said something. He was direct, the kind of man who told the cable company they were overcharging before they even answered the phone. But Frank wasn't a hotel manager. I was. And I knew the cardinal rule: you never confront a guest in the lobby. You wait, you observe, you document, and when you have the full picture, you act. I didn't know yet what I was waiting for. I didn't know what they were planning or how far it would go. But I'd spent 35 years reading people who smiled at the front desk and stole the bathrobes at checkout. I knew the difference between a weekend visit and a test run. This was a test run. They arrived Friday afternoon, 2 black SUVs. I watched from the porch with a glass of iced tea, old habit. A good hotel manager reads her guests before they reach the desk. Pamela Mitchell was the first one out, 62 years old. Former real estate agent lost her license 5 years ago, though the Mitchells never talked about why. She walked through my front door the way she probably once walked through open houses evaluating. She ran a finger along the windowsill, checked the kitchen appliances, opened the oven. The square footage is better than I expected. Not "what a beautiful home," not "thank you for having us." Square footage. Tom Mitchell, her husband 64, carried bags and nodded politely. He said "nice place," and that was the last full sentence he contributed for 48 hours. Brianna walked straight to the master bedroom. I heard closet doors opening. "Mom, this closet is huge." Kyle gave me a hug. "Thanks, Mom. This means so much to Bree." Sierra Mitchell, Brianna's younger sister, 33 event planner, had her phone out before she crossed the threshold. She photographed the porch, the view, the kitchen island. "This is going to look amazing." Chase Weston, Sierra's husband, unloaded 4 coolers and a Bluetooth speaker the size of a suitcase. Then Pamela did something I'll never forget. She bent down, picked up my welcome mat, the custom one that said "The Holloways" in Navy script, carried it to her car, and came back with a plain beige mat that said "Welcome." "Oh, honey, this one's more neutral. Better for everyone." I watched her place it at my door. I said nothing. I've managed VIP guests who rearranged their suites. It's always the first sign. When a guest starts redecorating, they're not visiting. They're moving in. I cooked dinner for 8, pan-seared grouper, roasted potatoes, a salad with tomatoes from the farmer's market I'd discovered that morning. I set the table with the blue stoneware I'd bought for myself, the first dishes I'd ever chosen, without asking anyone's opinion. Nobody offered to help. Nobody said thank you. At the table, Pamela held court. She sat at the head, a position I'd left empty because it used to be Frank's, and she spoke to the room like she was chairing a board meeting. "It's a family beach house, Drew. Family shares." Brianna nodded. "Mom's right. Kyle and I can't exactly afford beach vacations on his salary." She glanced at Kyle. He studied his grouper. Sierra leaned across the table. "I already told my friends about this place. They're going to die." I caught a glimpse of Sierra's phone on the table. Instagram. A photo of my kitchen, the blue stoneware, the grouper, the window over the sink with the ocean behind it. Caption, "Our new family beach retreat." Our. No mention of Drew. No mention of whose kitchen, whose stoneware, whose fish. Then Pamela dropped the schedule. "We should set up a rotation. Tom and I will take the first and third weekends of each month. Kyle and Brianna get the second. Sierra and Chase the fourth. That way everyone gets fair access." She wasn't asking. She was assigning. Fair access to my house. That I bought with my money. I counted. 6 times in 20 minutes, someone at that table referred to it as our house. Kyle caught my eye from across the table. He mouthed, "Thanks, Mom." Thanks. Past tense. Gratitude for permission he never asked for. "That sounds nice," I said. And I took another bite of my grouper. The back bedroom was 9 by 11 feet. It faced the parking area. No ocean, no porch. One window half blocked by the AC unit. In the master bedroom, directly above me, Pamela was rearranging furniture. I could hear it through the ceiling, a dresser scraping across hardwood, a lamp being moved. Kyle and Brianna had the second bedroom, Sierra and Chase the third. All 3 rooms faced the ocean. All 3 rooms had king beds and ceiling fans, and the sound of waves through the windows. I sat on the narrow twin bed and held Frank's captain's hat. I'd brought it from the mantel before anyone could move it. The white was starting to yellow at the edges. It smelled like sunscreen and sawdust, the 2 cents of every vacation Frank and I ever took. I'd managed presidential suites. I whispered to nobody. Penthouse floors. I once upgraded a newlywed couple at 2 a.m. because their room had a broken AC. But here I am, twin bed, back of my own house, holding my dead husband's hat. I called Rosa at 10, Rosa Gutierrez. 66. We'd worked together at the Palmetto Grand for 20 years. She was my assistant GM. She was also the only person on earth who could tell me I was being stupid and make me laugh about it. They moved me to the guest room of my own house, Rosa. 3-second silence. Then, Drew. You ran a 300-room resort for 15 years. You survived Hurricane Hugo with the kitchen flooding and 3 senators in the ballroom. You know how to handle problem guests. I looked at the hat in my hands. That's exactly what I've been thinking. So handle them. I set the hat on the nightstand. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but for the first time since Frank died, something woke up. Sunday afternoon. The Mitchells packed their SUVs like they were evacuating a resort they'd owned for decades. Pamela paused at the front door. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Same rooms. She straightened the beige welcome mat with her foot. And maybe get some better towels, Drew. These are a little thin. Kyle carried Sierra's bags to her car. On his way back, he stopped. Mom, it really means a lot to Brianna. You know her family doesn't get to the beach much. I smiled. Of course. They don't get to the beach much. Tom drove a $65,000 truck. Pamela wore a $400 sundress to my kitchen. They don't get to the beach because they've never had to pay for it. After the taillights disappeared down the road, I walked through the house the way I used to walk through hotel rooms after checkout. Not with anger, with a clipboard in my head. The inventory, red wine stain on the cream sofa cushion left arm. Sand ground into the hallway, hardwood not swept, not even attempted. 2 chipped glasses in the cabinet. The outdoor shower head loose, someone had yanked it. A ring of tanning lotion on the white porch railing that would probably never come out. I opened the front door. The Holloway's welcome mat was in the kitchen trash can. Pamela had thrown it away. I pulled it out. I hand-washed it in the kitchen sink with dish soap. I laid it in the sun to dry on the porch steps. An hour later, I put it back at the front door. Then I sat at the kitchen table and opened a leather notebook I'd bought at a stationery shop in Charleston. On the first page, I wrote, Mitchell Visit Number 1, Damage Report. In 35 years, I'd assessed thousands of room checkouts. This was the first one that made me cry. 2 weeks later, same cars, same energy, higher demands. This time, Pamela rearranged my living room. She moved the couch to face the window, repositioned Frank's photograph from the mantel to a shelf in the hallway, and brought her own throw pillows. Better flow, she said. Sierra invited 2 friends without telling me. 10 people in a 4-bedroom house. I gave up my bathroom so the extras could shower. I cooked breakfast for 10. Eggs, bacon, biscuits from scratch. No one asked if I needed help. No one offered to buy groceries. Chase set up a fire pit on the beach without checking city ordinances. Folly Beach has strict rules about open flames. A neighbor walked over at 11 that night to tell me about the noise. I apologized. It was my address, my responsibility. In the evening, Brianna found me in the kitchen. Drew, can you do your chicken salad again? Mom loved it last time. She said it the way you'd tell a waitress your order, not a request, a ticket. I'd started writing in the leather notebook every evening. After they went to bed, I'd sit at the kitchen table and record the day. Mitchell Visit Number 2. 10 guests, 2 unauthorized. Furniture rearranged without permission. Frank's photograph moved from mantel to hallway shelf. Unauthorized beach fire. Noise complaint from neighbor Mr. Addison at 11:07 p.m. In hotel management, we called this scope creep. The guest starts with a room, then they want the pool reserved, then the parking lot, then they want to manage the front desk. Kyle didn't visit without Brianna's family anymore. I hadn't seen my son alone in 3 months. Every time he came to my house, he brought 5 people who treated it like theirs. The third visit, 4 weeks after I'd bought the house, Pamela arrived with boxes, not suitcases, boxes. Just leaving a few things for next time, Drew, makes it easier. She unpacked her own sheets, high thread count, probably more expensive than mine. Her own towels, a bathrobe on the master bedroom door hook with her initials monogrammed on the pocket, and on the hallway shelf next to Frank's photograph, she placed a framed picture of the Mitchell family at Christmas. 2 photos side by side, my dead husband at the marina wearing the captain's hat, his replacements at a holiday party wearing matching sweaters. "Make yourself at home, Pamela." "Oh, I will." That afternoon, I sat on the porch reading, screen door half open. Sierra came outside to take a phone call. She walked to the far end of the wraparound porch, but the sound carried. "Yes, the venue is beachfront, 4 bedrooms, sleeps up to 12 with day beds, right on the sand. The address is..." She read out my address, my house number, my street, my zip code. "We can do a Saturday sunset ceremony, cocktail reception on the wraparound porch afterward, starting at 8,500. I closed my book. I didn't move. I didn't react. I'd managed event spaces for corporate clients, weddings, galas, pharmaceutical conventions. I'd negotiated venue contracts for 15 years. I knew a sales pitch when I heard one. She was selling my house. When she came back inside, she smiled at me. "Just a work call." I smiled back. "Of course." That night, I wrote in the notebook, Sierra Mitchell, phone call 3:22 p.m., pitching this property as event venue to prospective client, starting rate $8,500. I closed the book and looked out at the dark ocean. Something had shifted. The call came on a Wednesday, not from Kyle, from Brianna. "Drew, Mom's wondering if you could have the house ready by Thursday next time instead of Friday. She likes to arrive early and settle in. I usually garden on Thursdays, and I have a book club. Can't you reschedule? It's just one afternoon." I paused. I looked out the kitchen window at the hydrangeas I'd planted the week before, the first thing I'd ever planted in soil I owned. "I bought this house to enjoy it, Brianna." Silence. 5 seconds. Then in a voice that wasn't angry, just certain, "You have 4 bedrooms for 1 person, Drew. That's selfish." I held the phone away from my ear. I looked at it the way you'd look at a hotel review that gives you 1 star because the ocean was too loud. "I'll think about it," I said, and I hung up. I picked up the leather notebook. I wrote, Brianna Mitchell Holloway, June 14th, 2:47 p.m. Direct quote, "You have 4 bedrooms for 1 person. That's selfish." That evening, I cooked Frank's pot roast recipe, the one with the rosemary and the little red potatoes he'd peel himself while telling me about his day. I set 1 plate at the kitchen table, 1 glass of water, 1 napkin. I ate alone. The ocean through the screen door, the captain's hat on the mantel catching the last light. That night, I dreamed about Frank. We were standing on the porch. He was wearing the hat. The ocean was calm. He said, "This is our house, D, ours." I woke up at 3 a.m. My hand was reaching for the phone. I knew. The 4th visit. I cleaned the guest rooms before they arrived. Old habit, you always prep the room even when the guest doesn't deserve it. I was smoothing the bedspread in Sierra's room when my hand hit something under the pillow. Paper. Glossy. A brochure. Tri-fold, professionally printed. Coastal Celebrations by Sierra Mitchell, Intimate Beach, Weddings and Events. The cover photo, my wraparound porch at sunset. My white rocking chairs, my hanging ferns, the ocean behind them. Inside, beachfront ceremonies starting at $8,500. Rehearsal dinners. Engagement parties, corporate retreats, Folly Beach, South Carolina. Below the pricing, my address, my house number, my street, and the photos, every one of them from Sierra's Instagram. My kitchen with the blue stoneware in the morning light, my living room with Frank's bookshelf in the corner, my front steps with the hydrangeas blooming. She'd been photographing my house for 2 months, not for Instagram memories, for marketing materials. I sat on the edge of the bed. I counted to 10. I read the brochure again, starting at $8,500. That was the going rate for using my home to make money I'd never see. I took a photo of the brochure with my phone, front, back, interior pages, every detail. Then I placed it back under the pillow, exactly where I found it. Smoothed the bedspread over it. Good hotel managers never let a guest know they've been through their room. I walked to the kitchen. I opened the leather notebook and I wrote June 22nd. Evidence of unauthorized commercial use. Printed brochure, Coastal Celebrations by Sierra Mitchell. Venue address this property. Pricing $8,500 and up. Found beneath S. Mitchell's pillow, guest bedroom 3. Photos attached. That night I didn't sleep, but I did start making phone calls. Rosa picked up on the first ring. She's selling weddings at your house. Starting at $8,500. Drew Marie Holloway, are you serious? I read her the brochure verbatim, cover to back. Every photo description, every price point. Rosa was quiet for 10 seconds. That's a long time for Rosa. They're not treating you like family, Drew. They're treating you like a free resort. I ran resorts for 35 years, Rosa. I know what a resort looks like. So what are you going to do? I was already at my laptop. I'd pulled up 3 browser tabs: Folly Beach Vacation Rental Regulations, South Carolina LLC formation, property management companies serving the Low Country. The same thing I do with any property that's being misused by unauthorized parties. I'm going to restructure the management. The next morning after the Mitchells went to the beach, I opened Sierra's Instagram on my phone. I scrolled back 2 months. 47 posts featuring my house, my porch, my kitchen, my garden, my ocean view, caption after caption, the Mitchell Beach House. Family retreat vibes. Summer at our place. Not one mention of Drew. Not one. I screenshotted each post, every single one. I saved them in a folder on my phone labeled Documentation. That afternoon, I watched the Mitchells from the kitchen window. Pamela was on my porch drinking my iced tea from my glasses, telling Tom where to move the beach chairs. Sierra was photographing the sunset, probably for another post. Brianna was on the phone planning something. Kyle was building a sandcastle with Chase. He looked happy. I'd managed thousands of guests in my career. I knew the difference between someone who appreciated your hospitality and someone who thought it was owed to them. The Mitchells never brought a bottle of wine, never offered to split groceries, never asked if they could help clean. In hotel terms, they were the guests who stole the bathrobes, trashed the minibar, and left a 1-star review about the parking. Saturday morning, the Mitchells were at the beach. I was clearing the breakfast dishes, 8 plates, 8 glasses, 8 sets of silverware I'd washed by myself. Brianna's iPad was on the kitchen counter. She'd left it there plugged in. A notification chimed. I wasn't looking for it. I was wiping the counter around it. The preview on the lock screen, an email from Pamela Mitchell. Subject line, Re-Beach Property Family Edition. I stopped wiping. The iPad wasn't locked. Brianna had left it open. The email was right there. Talk to my old colleague at Hampton Realty. If we establish regular use and contribute to upkeep even symbolically, we may have grounds for a stronger position when we approach Drew about adding our names to the deed. It's called equitable interest through established use. My real estate background tells me this is how families protect shared assets. Don't mention this to Kyle yet. Let's get a few more weekends under our belt first. I read it once, then again, then a third time. Adding our names to the deed, equitable interest through established use. Don't mention this to Kyle yet. I put the iPad back exactly where it was. I finished wiping the counter. I poured myself a cup of coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and drank it slowly. Then I opened the leather notebook and wrote June 24th Pamela Mitchell email to Brianna Ree, adding names to deed via established use. Quote, equitable interest. Conspiracy to acquire property without owner's knowledge. Screenshot attached. I'd read 1,000 contracts in my career, not as a lawyer, as a hotel general manager who'd negotiated leases, vendor agreements, insurance policies, and union contracts for 3 decades. I knew a hostile takeover when I saw one. This one had been planned before they ever stepped foot in my house. Monday morning, I drove to Charleston, 45 minutes on Highway 17 with the windows down and Frank's favorite station playing oldies, Otis Redding, Sam Cooke. The music he'd hum while rewiring a kitchen. Ruth Kimball's office was on King Street, 2nd floor, real estate and business law. She was 55, lean, direct, and she wore reading glasses on a chain that made her look like a librarian who could file an injunction before lunch. I laid everything on her desk, the notebook, the screenshots, the brochure, the email. Ruth read for 12 minutes. I counted. In hotels, you learn to stay quiet while the important person reads the file. She took off her glasses. You're not the first retired woman who's walked in here with this story, but you're the first one who brought a binder. I was a hotel general manager, Ruth. I bring binders to everything. Equitable interest through established use, she said. That's not a real legal doctrine in South Carolina. It's realtor jargon. Pamela's mixing up adverse possession with wishful thinking. She has no legal pathway to your deed. Good. But if you let this pattern continue, it creates a documented history of shared use that could complicate things later, especially if they contribute financially. They haven't contributed a cent, Ruth smiled. Then what do you want to do? I looked out her window. King Street below. Tourists walking horse carriages, a hotel I'd once consulted for during a renovation. I knew hotels. I knew hospitality. I knew business. I want to do what I've done for 35 years, Ruth. Run a hospitality operation, but this time on my terms. She picked up a pen. Let's get started. First LLC formation. I'm thinking Holloway Harbor. I nodded. My husband picked that name 20 years ago. If you've ever set the table for people who never said thank you, if you've ever given up your bedroom for someone who complained about the sheets, if you've ever been called selfish for living in your own house, you already know why I did what I did next. I'm Drew Holloway. I was done being a free resort. Stay with me. Over the next 3 weeks, I worked harder than I had since opening night at the Palmetto Grand. Ruth filed the LLC paperwork. Holloway Harbor LLC, registered in South Carolina. I applied for a Folly Beach vacation rental permit. Ruth had handled 3 other properties on the island and knew the process cold. Insurance, business bank account, tax ID. While the paperwork processed, I hired Low Country Stays, a property management company in Charleston. They sent a photographer. He spent 4 hours shooting every room, the porch at golden hour, the kitchen with morning light, the bedrooms with fresh white linens. Then I did what I'd been planning since the night Rosa told me to handle my problem guests. I converted the garage loft. The detached garage behind the house had a 2nd floor, unfinished, dusty, full of old beach chairs and paint cans. I hired a contractor named Marcus who'd done work at the Palmetto Grand. He brought a crew of 4. 12 days they transformed it. Insulated walls, hardwood floors, a compact kitchen, a bathroom with a walk-in shower, and a dormer window with a view of the ocean that was better than the one from the master bedroom. My apartment. My room. The one I chose. I moved Frank's captain's hat to the new mantel. It looked right there, better than it had in the big house. I ordered 2 welcome mats. Welcome to Holloway Harbor went on the front door of the main house. My original Holloway's mat went at the garage apartment entrance. Then I listed the property. VRBO, Airbnb, Holloway Harbor Beachfront Retreat. 4 bedrooms, ocean views, wraparound porch. Your host, Drew. Price $475 per night. 3-night minimum. Within 48 hours, every weekend through October was booked. The leather notebook got a new title page, Holloway Harbor Guest Register, established by Drew and Frank Holloway. The Mitchells came for what they believed was their regular rotation. I hosted them from the main house. The B&B wasn't officially live until the following week. This time I was serene, calm. I served dinner. I poured wine. I laughed at Tom's jokes about the weather. Pamela noticed. "You seem different, Drew." "I've been busy with a project." "Oh, gardening." "Something like that." During this visit, I watched with professional clarity. Everything I'd once taken personally, I now observed the way I'd observe a hotel guest exceeding their reservation. Pamela referred to the master bedroom as my room. She'd added a third framed photograph to the hallway shelf. Sierra took photos of the newly blooming hydrangeas from 6 different angles. "For my website," she said. She didn't say which website. Brianna planned a 4th of July party on the porch. 25 guests, a caterer, sparklers on the beach. She discussed it with Pamela across the dinner table, like I was a waitress who'd already taken their order. No one asked Drew. Sunday evening, Kyle found me drying dishes. It was the only time we were alone. "You okay, Mom? You seem happy." "I am happy, Kyle. For the first time since your father died, I feel like myself." "I'm glad." He kissed my cheek and carried a bag to the car. He didn't notice the new lock on the garage apartment. He didn't ask about the project. Pamela left last. "See you in 2 weeks, 4th of July weekend." I waved from the porch. Wouldn't miss it. After they left, I walked to the garage apartment, opened my laptop, checked the booking calendar. 4th of July weekend booked. A family from Philadelphia. $475 per night. 4 nights. I closed the laptop. I picked up the captain's hat and held it to my chest. Check-in is Friday, Frank. It started with a phone call. Tuesday afternoon. Brianna. "Okay, so for July 4th, Mom's inviting the Hendersons and the Walkers. That's 12 more. Can you set up the porch for a buffet? Oh, and we'll need tiki torches and a cooler station. Mom wants..." "Brianna." Something in my voice stopped her. Not loud, just present. "That sounds lovely, but I should let you know the house is booked that weekend." Silence. The kind that fills a room. "Booked?" "Yes, a family from Philadelphia. They reserved all 4 bedrooms back in May." "Reserved?" "What do you mean, reserved?" "Mom already told the Hendersons." "You might want to talk to your mother about that." I didn't hear the next call directly, but Kyle told me about it later. Pamela's end of the conversation with Brianna, and he heard it from the next room, contained the following: "What does she mean booked? It's a family house. She can't do this." Kyle called me at 9 that evening. His voice was tight, confused. "Mom, what's going on?" "I've opened a bed and breakfast, Kyle. Holloway Harbor. It's been booked since June." Silence. 7 seconds. "You..." "What?" "I'll send you the website. hollowayharbor.com. All 4 bedrooms. Wraparound porch. Ocean views. $475 a night." "Mom, you can't just..." "I can, I did. And I've already had paying guests who were very happy with the accommodations." He didn't say anything for a long time. "Brianna's mom is going to lose her mind." I took a sip of tea. "I've managed 300 rooms and a ballroom during a hurricane, Kyle. I think I can handle Pamela Mitchell." He hung up. I sat on my porch, my real porch, the small one off the garage apartment, and I listened to the ocean. They were coming, all of them. And this time I was ready. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. I was in the garden deadheading hydrangeas when I heard them. 3 cars in the driveway. None of them belonged to paying guests. The Rodriguez family from Philadelphia had arrived Friday afternoon and were already at the beach with their kids. But in my driveway, Pamela's silver SUV, Kyle's blue sedan, Sierra's white hatchback. The Mitchells stood on the front lawn staring at the porch. where Mrs. Rodriguez had left a pair of sandals by the front door, where a beach towel hung over the railing, not a Mitchell beach towel, a stranger's. The front door had a new sign beside it, Holloway Harbor, a beachfront bed and breakfast. Beneath it, the new welcome mat. Welcome to Holloway Harbor. Pamela pointed at the sign. Her mouth was opening, but no sound came out. Sierra was holding her phone like she wanted to take a photo but couldn't decide if she was angry or confused. Brianna had her arms crossed. Kyle stood slightly apart from all of them, hands in his pockets. I set down my gardening gloves, walked across the lawn. I was wearing a linen blazer over a white shirt, not planned but fitting. I'd dressed for guests my entire career. "Good morning, everyone," Pamela found her voice. "Who are those people on our porch?" "Those are my guests, the Rodriguez family from Philadelphia. They booked 3 weeks ago." "Your guests?" "I've opened a bed and breakfast, Pamela. Holloway Harbor, LLC. Licensed, insured, and fully booked through October." I reached into my blazer pocket and handed her a business card. "Cream stock, navy ink, Holloway Harbor, Drew Holloway proprietor. If you'd like to book a room, you're welcome to check availability on the website." At the garage apartment entrance, my original Holloway's mat sat squarely on the ground. My home. My door. Pamela followed me toward the garage apartment, Sierra and Brianna behind her. Tom stayed by the car. Kyle trailed at the back. "This is insane, Drew. You cannot turn a family home into a hotel." "I ran hotels for 35 years, Pamela. It's the one thing I know how to do." She switched tactics. The voice went soft. The eyes went wet. Performance grief I'd seen it 100 times from guests trying to negotiate a free night. What would Frank think he wanted this to be a family place, Drew? A place for everyone. I went very still, very quiet. "Don't tell me what Frank wanted, Pamela. Frank wanted a house where I could be happy. Not a house where I sleep in the back room while someone rearranges my furniture and throws away the mat with his name on it." The softness vanished. The real Pamela was back. "We're family, Drew. This is what families do. Family doesn't throw away the welcome mat with my husband's name on it." She went pale. She thought I hadn't noticed. She thought I didn't know about the trash can. Third tactic. Threat. "I'll get a lawyer. You can't just do this." "I already have a lawyer." "Ruth Kimball in Charleston. She's the one who set up the LLC." I paused. "And she had some very interesting things to say about your equitable interest through established use strategy." Pamela's entire body locked. For the first time since I'd known her, she had nothing to say. "How did you left your email open on your daughter's iPad, in my kitchen, on my counter, in my house." The louder Pamela got, the quieter I became. "It's a technique I learned from a Swiss hotel inspector in 1994. The person who controls the volume controls the room." Sierra tried to recover the situation. She stepped in front of Pamela, hands up, the peacemaker smile I'd seen from 1,000 event planners. "Okay, this is crazy. Drew, you're overreacting. We were just spending time together as a—" I reached into the folder I'd carried from the apartment. I pulled out a glossy tri-fold brochure. "Coastal Celebrations by Sierra Mitchell. Intimate beach weddings and events." I held it up so everyone could see. "Starting at $8,500. Sierra's face drained, slowly, like watching a tide go out. "The venue address listed here is my house. These photos were taken inside my home without my permission and used for commercial marketing purposes." I turned the brochure over. "Saturday sunset ceremony, cocktail reception on the wraparound porch." That's a direct quote from the phone call you made on my porch on June 15th. I was sitting 6 feet away. Sierra's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It was a draft. I haven't actually booked anyone. You pitched it to a client, Sierra. I heard you give them my address and your pricing." I handed her a second document. white paper legal letterhead. This is a cease and desist from my attorney. It's a formal demand to remove my property address from all marketing materials, online and print. You have 30 days. Sierra stared at the letter. Her eyes filled, not remorse, frustration. The tears of someone caught, not someone sorry. Pamela stepped forward. Now look what you've done, Drew. I turned to face her, slowly. I found the brochure under your daughter's pillow. Pamela, in my house, in the room I cleaned for her. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the ocean and the Rodriguez kids laughing on the beach behind us. Brianna turned to Kyle. Her voice cracked. Kyle, say something. Kyle was standing at the edge of the group. He hadn't spoken a word since they arrived. His hands were still in his pockets. His eyes moved from the brochure to the cease and desist to the business card his mother had handed Pamela. Brianna turned to me. You've humiliated my family. No, Brianna. Your family humiliated themselves. In my house, with my address, using my hospitality, and calling me selfish for owning it. We were just trying to... You were trying to take my house. Your mother's email said so, adding names to the deed. Equitable interest through established use. And my favorite part, I let the sentence land like I was reading a verdict in a lobby full of executives. Don't mention this to Kyle yet. Kyle's head snapped up. What? Brianna's face changed, not anger anymore. Fear. That was just... That Mom was just exploring options. She wasn't exploring options. Kyle stepped toward Brianna. What does that mean, Bree? Your mother was trying to get our names on my mother's deed without telling me. First time I'd heard Kyle raise his voice at Brianna. In 10 years of their marriage, I'd never seen him push back on anything she said. It wasn't my idea, Kyle. Mom, just... Your mom. Kyle turned to Pamela. Is this true? Pamela smoothed her hair, straightened her shoulders. I was protecting our family's interests, Kyle. Someone has to think about the future. I watched my son. I didn't push. I didn't pile on. In 35 years, I'd watched hundreds of arguments in hotel lobbies. The moment someone discovers they've been lied to, that's when you step back. You let them process. You don't add fuel. The truth doesn't need help. It does its own damage. If you've ever stood in your own house and felt like a guest, if you've ever watched your family plan around you instead of with you, if you've ever been called selfish for wanting what you earned, then hit that subscribe button. Because what I said next was the moment I stopped being the innkeeper and started being the owner. The arguing had migrated to the driveway. Pamela, Brianna, and Sierra in a tight cluster. Kyle standing apart, arms crossed, staring at the ground. Chase sat in his car with the windows up. Tom Mitchell walked toward me, slowly, like he'd been waiting for the right break in the weather. Drew. Tom. He rubbed the back of his neck, looked at the Holloway Harbor sign on the main house. I want you to know I didn't know about the email or the brochure, any of it. I believe you, Tom? He nodded. Then he said something I wasn't expecting. Pamela lost her license 5 years ago. You probably know that. Undisclosed conflicts of interest, she was steering buyers toward properties where she had side deals with the sellers. It was public. The hearing was in front of people she'd worked with for 20 years. He paused. It hit her harder than anyone knows, harder than she'd ever admit. When she sees a house, any house, she still sees a listing, a project, a way to prove she still has what she lost. That doesn't make it right, Tom. No, it doesn't. He looked at the B&B sign again. Holloway Harbor, that's a good name. My husband picked it 20 years ago. He said if we ever had a beach house, that's what he'd call it. Tom nodded again. He reached out and shook my hand, brief, firm, the handshake of a man who knew he should have done more and was ashamed he hadn't. He walked back to Pamela. I'd met thousands of Pamelas in my career, but I'd also met thousands of Toms. The ones who knew it was wrong but didn't have the voice to say so until the lobby was already on fire. Knowing doesn't count if you never act on it. They gathered on the lawn. All of them. Pamela vibrating with fury, Sierra clutching the cease and desist like it might bite her, Brianna standing close to Kyle but not touching him, Tom at the edge. I opened the leather guest register. I'd like to read a few entries, if you don't mind. I didn't wait for permission. In 35 years, I'd never needed permission to read a guest file in my own hotel. I spoke calmly, not angry, not vindictive. The voice I used when presenting quarterly reports to the hotel board: factual, measured, complete. Visit 1. Welcome mat bearing the owner's family name removed and discarded. Red wine stain on cream sofa. No contribution to groceries or utilities. Host involuntarily relocated to smallest bedroom. I turned the page. Visit 2. Living room furniture rearranged without permission. 2 unauthorized guests admitted. Host's late husband's photograph moved from mantel to hallway shelf. Noise complaint from neighboring property at 11:07 p.m. Another page. Visit 3. Unauthorized personal belongings installed in master bedroom. Event planning brochure discovered featuring this address for commercial use. Starting price $8,500. Another page. Visit 4. 25-person party planned on this property without owner's knowledge or consent. Owner instructed to have the house ready by Thursday. I closed the book. Pamela's voice was ice. You were documenting us. I document every guest, Pamela. It's how you run a hospitality business. I tucked the register under my arm. You were right about one thing. It is a family beach house, and now it's also a family business. My family's business. Mine and Frank's. On the beach, Mrs. Rodriguez waved at me. I waved back. A paying guest, a grateful one. The Rodriguez family had gone inside. It was just us on the lawn now. The Mitchells in a ragged line. Me on the porch of my garage apartment. The ocean was steady. The afternoon light was warm. I spoke the way I'd spoken to every difficult guest I'd ever handled, with the calm that comes from knowing you've done the right thing and you have the paperwork to prove it. I looked at Pamela. You told me it's a family beach house, family shares. You were right. Now every family can share it. Through the website, for $475 a night. Pamela's jaw worked, but nothing came out. I looked at Sierra. You saw this house as a venue. So did I. The difference is I have a license, an LLC, and commercial insurance. You had a brochure with my address under your pillow. Sierra looked at the ground. The cease and desist crumpled in her fist. I looked at Brianna. You called me selfish for having 4 bedrooms for one person. I let the pause do the work. I have 4 bedrooms for anyone who books them. That's not selfish, Brianna. That's hospitality. Then I looked at Kyle, my son, 38 years old, Frank's eyes, Frank's jaw, Frank's inability to stand up when it mattered until it was too late. You told me to move to the guest room, Kyle. He flinched. The guest room is the premium suite now. $475 a night. Ocean view. King bed. The mattress. Pamela liked so much. I gestured behind me. The garage apartment, the small porch, the ocean through the dormer window, the captain's hat visible on the mantel inside. And I sleep here, in the best room in the house. Nobody spoke. The only sound was a seagull in the waves. Pamela found words. This isn't over, Drew. I looked at her. Steady. Level. The way I'd looked at a travel writer who once threatened to destroy the Palmetto Grand with a 1-star review unless I gave him a free suite for a week. I was a hotel general manager for 35 years. I've had guests threaten lawsuits, health department calls, and 1-star reviews. Every single time the hotel was still standing the next morning. I paused, and so was I. The Mitchells left one by one. Pamela first. She slammed her car door hard enough that Mrs. Rodriguez peeked through the front window. Sierra and Chase followed Sierra, still holding the cease and desist mascara on her cheeks. Brianna waited in Kyle's car, staring at her phone. Kyle didn't leave. He stood on the lawn looking at the garage apartment, the small porch, the rocking chair, the Holloway's mat at the door. He walked toward it, stopped at the mat, looked down, read the name. Mom. Yes. Can I see him? He meant the hat. I stepped aside. Kyle walked into the apartment. It was small, one room, one window, a kitchenette, a bathroom behind a sliding door. Frank's tools were on a shelf I'd built, his favorite coffee mug on the counter. The captain's hat on the mantel centered the way it had been in the big house. Kyle picked it up, turned it over. On the inside brim, in Frank's blocky handwriting, Captain Holloway and his first mate. Kyle's hand shook. He'd either forgotten or never noticed. Dad wrote this on our anniversary, our 30th. Kyle held the hat for a long time. His eyes were full. He didn't cry, but his breathing changed the way it does when someone sees something they should have been looking at all along. Your father saved his whole life for this house, Kyle. Every overtime shift, every side job, every dollar he didn't spend on himself. I was not going to let anyone turn it into something he wouldn't recognize. Kyle set the hat back on the mantel. Gently, like placing a crown. I'm sorry, Mom. I know. He waited. Wanted me to hug him, maybe. Wanted absolution. But Brianna honked the horn. Kyle left. I watched his car until it reached the end of the road. Then I picked up the captain's hat and held it. I did it, Frank. I ran the best hotel in my career. That evening, the Rodriguez family came back from the beach, sandy and sunburned and happy, in the way that only happens when you're exactly where you want to be. Mrs. Rodriguez found me on the porch of the main house, setting out sweet tea and shortbread cookies. Drew, this is the most beautiful place we've ever stayed. The kids want to come back every year. How long have you been running this? About 3 weeks. Well, you're a natural. I laughed. The first real laugh that had come out of me since all of this started. I've had some practice. That night, I opened the guest register on the kitchen counter. Mrs. Rodriguez picked up the pen. Can I? She asked. Please, she wrote. Holloway Harbor is the best-kept secret on Folly Beach. Drew is the most gracious host we've ever met. We'll be back every summer. 5 stars. The Rodriguez family, Philadelphia, PA. I read it. I closed the book. I held it against my chest. In 35 years, I'd received hundreds of guest reviews, 5-star tributes and 1-star rants, compliments about the lobby flowers and complaints about the elevator speed. But this was the first review written in my own house, in my own book, for my own business. Mr. Rodriguez tipped his fishing cap at me as he walked upstairs. It wasn't a captain's hat, but it caught the lamplight the same way, and for just a second, I saw Frank winking from a marina we'd never visited together. Later that night, the house quiet, the Rodriguez kids asleep, the ocean doing its steady work outside. I sat on the porch of my apartment. My apartment. With my rocking chair and my iced tea and my view. My phone buzzed. A text from Kyle, a screenshot. Pamela had texted him, "Tell your mother this isn't over. My attorney will be in touch." I read it. I didn't respond. I called Rosa. "She's threatening to sue." "She won't. She's got nothing and she knows it." "I know. I just wanted to tell someone I'm not scared." Rosa laughed. "You managed a hotel during Hurricane Hugo with the ballroom flooding and the governor's wife screaming about the shrimp cocktail. You're not scared of Pamela Mitchell." I laughed back. Real, full, from the belly. I moved to the guest room, and it turned out to be the best room in the house. I looked out at the water, Frank's hat on the mantel behind me, the guest register on the kitchen table, the Holloway's mat under my feet, the hat, the mat, the book, Frank's dream, my home. Our business, past, present, future, all of them right here, all of them mine. The ocean was quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens when everything that needed to be said has been said and everything that needed to be done has been done. I finished my tea, I went to bed, and for the first time in a long time, I slept in the room I chose. 6 weeks after the confrontation, Holloway Harbor had a 4.9-star rating on Airbnb, 47 5-star reviews, booked through the holidays. The numbers I'd covered the first quarter of my initial investment. The rest would come. I wasn't in a rush. Frank always said the best electrical work is the job you take your time with. I set up a scholarship at Kyle's school, Folly Beach High, where he taught 11th grade history, the Frank Holloway Memorial Trade Scholarship, $1,000 a year for a graduating senior pursuing a career in the trades. Plumbing, electrical, carpentry, the work Frank believed in. The first check came from B&B Revenue. Sierra removed my address from everything brochure, website, Instagram. She lost 2 clients who'd already seen the materials and wanted to book at that cute Folly Beach house. 3 months later, she took a job coordinating events at a hotel in Savannah. I wrote her a reference letter, not as forgiveness, as a professional courtesy. She was 33 years old and making the same mistakes I'd seen from young event staff 100 times. She needed structure, not a family property to exploit. Pamela never called. Tom sent me a birthday card in August. Inside, "Happy birthday, Drew. The house looks beautiful online." Tom. No mention of Pamela, no mention of the deed. Brianna was, according to Kyle, processing. She'd started seeing a therapist. I didn't ask about what. 3 other homeowners on Folly Beach called me that summer asking for Ruth Kimball's number. Same story, different families, entitled children. Vacation homes treated like timeshares. Welcome mats with the wrong names. It turns out I wasn't the only retired woman whose family thought Mom's beach house meant free hotel. August. The garden was full hydrangeas, lantana, jasmine along the garage wall. The B&B had a wait list. I'd started baking peach scones for the guests using a recipe I'd developed at the Palmetto Grand. 2 reviewers mentioned them by name. I was pulling weeds when I heard a car in the driveway. 1 car. No SUVs, Kyle. He was alone. No Brianna, no Mitchell family, no coolers or Bluetooth speakers. He stood at the garage apartment door. He looked at the Holloway's mat. He looked at the small porch with the 2 rocking chairs, one mine, one empty. Frank's chair, the one I'd brought from Mount Pleasant. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, honey. Can I just visit, not as a guest, not for a weekend, just for an hour?" "Come in." I made sweet tea. We sat on the porch. The ocean was flat and silver in the afternoon heat. The B&B guests were out, kayaking, shopping, doing whatever happy people do on vacation. "I didn't know about the email," Kyle said. "About the deed thing." "I know you didn't. That's why I showed you." "Brianna and we're talking about things. She's seeing someone. A therapist. It's helping." I nodded. I didn't push. Kyle went inside. He picked up the captain's hat from the mantel, held it the way he had before, both hands turned it over, read the inscription. Dad would have loved this place. He does. We sat there until 5, the ocean and the silence and 2 glasses of sweet tea. "Can I come back next weekend, just me?" "Always. But you don't need to book." He laughed. Small, real. The first laugh we'd shared since March. He left at 5. I watched his car until the road curved and the trees swallowed it. Then I went inside and opened the guest register. On the last page, I wrote, "Kyle Holloway, August 12th. Not a guest. Family." My name is Drew Holloway. I'm 68 years old. I spent 35 years making strangers feel at home. Then my own family made me feel like a stranger in the house I bought with my own money. So I did the only thing I know how to do. I opened the door, set the table, and charged $475 a night. Hospitality is a gift, not an obligation. And the best room in the house is the one you choose for yourself. That's my story. 6 weeks of silence, one garage apartment, and a guest register with my name on the right side of the page. If this reminded you that your home is yours, share it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.